My dad typed it in the family group chat for everyone to see. 43 people. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandmother. And his message just sat there at the top of the screen like he was proud of it. She'll never amount to anything. Stop expecting miracles from that one. An aunt sent a laughing emoji. Then another one. I watched the notifications stack up, one after another, and not a single person said a word in my defense. Not one. I put my phone face down on the passenger seat, took a slow breath, and walked into my meeting. What my dad didn't know was that in about 6 hours, his words were going to be on the wrong side of history. My name is Deja. I'm 34 years old. I grew up in Atlanta as the middle child in a family that had opinions about everything and confidence in me about nothing. My dad ran a small construction business. My mom was a homemaker who rarely disagreed with him out loud, and I was the quiet one, the one who liked computers, the one who, according to my dad, was always in her own world. I studied computer science on a partial scholarship. To cover the rest, I worked a front desk job on weekday mornings and waited tables on weekends. My family called it a phase. My dad told me to learn something practical. My aunt asked me once if I planned to work at Best Buy. I smiled and said I wasn't sure yet. After I graduated, I co-founded a small tech startup with a college friend. We built workforce scheduling software, the kind that helps blue-collar businesses manage shift changes, time-off requests, and team communication. Construction companies, warehouses, logistics crews. The exact world my father had spent his whole career in. I always thought that was funny in a quiet, private kind of way. The company wasn't flashy. We weren't in the news. For years, it was just the two of us, a small client list, and a lot of early mornings. At family dinners, I barely mentioned it because nobody asked. And when I did bring it up, my dad would wave his hand and say, "Playing on computers isn't a real business, Deja." So I stopped talking about it at those dinners. I kept my head down and kept building. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. But I had been building something in silence that was about to speak for itself. If your own family was the last to take you seriously, subscribe, because this community gets it. Drop a comment and tell me, what's something you accomplished that someone said you never could? I'm reading every single one. Let's go. About 3 weeks before that WhatsApp message, my dad called a family dinner. A real one, the kind where everyone shows up and the kitchen smells like something that's been cooking all afternoon. I thought maybe he just wanted to get everyone together. I was wrong. Halfway through the meal, my older brother Devin set down his fork and cleared his throat. He had this look on his face, the look of someone who had already rehearsed what he was about to say. He announced that he was expanding the family construction business. New contracts, new equipment, bigger crews. He needed investors. My dad lit up. He started going around the table, naming relatives, talking about what each of them could contribute. He was animated, excited, proud. And then I said it. I said, I might be able to help. I have some resources and I think I could. My dad talked right over me. Deja baby, we need real money. Not your little app hobby. The table laughed, not everyone but enough. Devin looked down at his plate. My mom didn't move. My cousin Renee, sitting across from me, mouthed the words, "I'm sorry," and I just nodded once and picked up my fork. I drove home that night with the radio off. And when I got inside and opened my laptop, there was an email sitting in my inbox from a regional business journal. They were doing a feature story on tech innovation in workforce management. They had found our company. They wanted to interview me. I read it twice. I started typing a reply, then I stopped. I closed the laptop. Not yet, I thought, not yet. The weeks after that dinner taught me things I didn't want to know about my own family. Devin's investor celebration dinner happened about a week later. A nice restaurant, private room, the whole thing. I wasn't invited. I found out when the photos went up in the group chat. My dad had written a caption under one of them, "Building something real with real people." I stared at that caption for a long time, then I put my phone down and went back to work. A cousin's birthday party came next. One of my aunts asked me what I was doing for work these days, and before I could get a single word out, my dad jumped in from across the room. "She does something with computers. It's not really a career, it's more of a hobby situation." He said it easily, casually, the way you'd describe someone who collected stamps. The conversation moved on. I stood there holding a plastic cup of lemonade, smiling at nothing. Then Devin called me. His voice was different this time, softer. He said he'd been thinking and maybe there was a way I could help after all. He wanted to know if I could build an app for the construction business. Something simple, he said. Just for internal use. Just to help organize the crews. I told him I could. I gave him a fair professional rate. 2 days later, my dad texted me, "I raised you better than to charge your own family." I didn't respond. I screenshot the message, saved it, and kept moving. I was tired. I won't pretend I wasn't. I called Renee one night and just talked for an hour. I questioned whether staying quiet was the right choice, whether I was letting them define me by saying nothing. But every time I thought about reacting, I thought about what I was building instead. And I went back to work. What they didn't know was that the little app hobby had just closed a licensing deal with a regional logistics chain covering 4 states. 4 states. The deal had been in negotiation for months, and it had just gone through. Our revenue had quietly crossed a number that would have made my dad's jaw drop. But our company name didn't include my name anywhere. My LinkedIn was minimal. I had kept it that way on purpose, partly out of habit, partly because I had learned early that some things grow better in the dark. The business journal story was still being scheduled. The reporter had been thorough. She had tracked down our client history, our growth numbers, early reviews from customers. She had done her homework, and I had made a decision. I was not going to warn my family. I was not going to prep them or soften anything. I had spent years making myself small at that dinner table. I wasn't going to make myself small in the press. There was one person I talked to about all of this. Her name is Carol. She's in her late 50s, built and sold 2 companies before most people I know had figured out what they wanted to do with their lives. She had been mentoring me for almost 3 years. I told her everything, the dinners, the texts, the group chat, all of it. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Don't confront them, don't warn them. Let the work do the talking. Don't you steal that moment from yourself." She also connected me with a PR contact who helped make sure the story was placed well and timed right. We weren't manufacturing anything. The story was already real. We just made sure it landed properly. Meanwhile, Devon's expansion was running into problems. A supplier dispute, a zoning issue with one of the new sites. The momentum he had celebrated over that private dinner was stalling. And one evening, he called me again. This time there was no business proposal. He just asked if I could lend him a little money. Just between siblings, he said. Just to cover a short gap. I told him I couldn't help right now. My voice was calm, I meant it. And then came the morning my dad typed those words into the group chat. 43 people. A laughing emoji from an ant. Silence from everyone else. I saved the screenshot and walked into my meeting. That evening, I sat on my couch with a bowl of food I barely touched. My phone was on the cushion next to me. The local news was on in the background, and I wasn't really watching it until I heard the anchor say something about workforce tech startups changing the game for blue-collar industries in the region. I looked up, there was our company name on the screen, there was my face. My phone went off, once, twice, then it didn't stop. The family group chat woke up like someone had flipped a switch, message after message coming in. My aunt typed, "Deja, is this you?" with a link to the news segment. A cousin sent a string of shocked faces. Someone else wrote, "Wait, what?" My dad went quiet. I watched the little indicators in the chat. I could see that people were typing and stopping, typing and stopping. 11 minutes passed, then my dad's message appeared. "Why didn't you tell us?" I read it once. Then I scrolled up. I found his message from that morning. I screenshot it. I pasted it directly above his question in the chat so everyone could see both of them at the same time. His words from this morning. His question from tonight. Sitting right next to each other. Then I typed, "I did tell you. You just weren't listening." I put the phone face down. Devon texted me privately about 30 minutes later. He wanted to talk. He mentioned something about a potential partnership. I saw the message. I left it there. The group chat went silent after my reply. Not the normal quiet of a slow evening. A different kind of silence. The kind that means everyone read it and nobody knew what to say. I stepped back from the chat after that. Not in anger, not to make a point, just because I was done. I muted it and left it alone. That same week, I had dinner with Renee and Carol at a small restaurant near my office. We talked about the next phase of the company. New clients we were close to signing. A small team we were building out. The conversation was easy and warm, and I realized somewhere between the appetizer and the main course that this was the first family-adjacent meal in years where I felt completely like myself. My dad built things for a living. He always said the most important part was the foundation. If the foundation is wrong, nothing above it holds. I was maybe 12 years old the first time he told me that. I thought about that a lot in the days after the news segment aired. Because I had spent years building quietly, carefully, on solid ground, while the people who doubted me loudest were putting weight on something that wasn't ready. The message is still in that group chat. I left it there, not to hurt him, but because some things deserve to stay exactly where they were said. If your own father or mother ever told you that you wouldn't make it, you know the specific kind of pain that leaves. It doesn't just sting, it stays. Subscribe and tell me in the comments, did they ever admit they were wrong? Or did you just have to make peace without the apology? Share your story because this community is listening. Click hype to help this reach every person who's still building in silence. Standing up for yourself is tough. If you've been there, subscribe and become part of our community. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype. And tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.